Hey guys, welcome to the Introduction to Coding in C++. What we are going to be using in this lesson is Visual Studio 2019, which is a free software you can download online. Just search up Visual Studio and you should find it. And one thing to note is when you do install it, you're going to be given options on what type of compilers to download, and basically what this means is which languages you want to be coding in, because Visual Studio can be used to code in many different languages. So what we're going to do is we're going to use C++ for now in this lesson right now. So when you do open it and download it, you're going to have to download the C++ compiler. And once you do, it's going to show up here. And as you can see, I have C++ and C#, but we're going to get into C++ today. So if we go back, these are all the projects that you have done in the past. If you just installed it, you won't have any of these, but you will have this right side. And that's where we're going to start. So we're going to create a new project. We're going to go into C++, and once you click that, you go to Next, and this is where you give your project a name. You can give whatever name you want. For me, I'm going to do C++. And once you do that, you can obviously change the location of where you want to save it in, and then you just click create. And this might take a second, and then this should show up like this. I do have updates installed, don't worry about that. And once you do, this might seem a little bit daunting, but a lot of this stuff is actually really easy, and we're just going to go through it. And so on the right side, you can see we have the file, and it's called whatever we named it. For me, I named it Teach C++. And we have a lot of these separate files. And to begin coding, you can see we can't really type because there's no place to type right now. And what you'd really do to start typing is you're going to create a source file. And what you do is right-click, you click Add, and then you add a new item. And for our purposes, we're going to add a C++ file, and it's going to be a .cpp file. And here you can actually name it whatever you want. For me, I'm just going to do test. Doesn't really matter. You don't really need to name this. This isn't a mandatory step. You can just have it as whatever it is, and you can click add. Once you click add, you're going to see a place where you can actually type your code. And this is the basis of where we're going to type. And a few things that you need to know about C++ is you need to have a couple of things before you can actually start writing code. And these things that you need to have really tell the compiler where they need to go so they can understand your code. So I'm just going to write a few lines of code first, and I'm going to tell you what they mean in a bit. And then using name and spelled it wrong. Go and name. Alright, so this is where we begin. So basically, if you guys are just starting off in code, you don't really need to worry about what all these really mean. If you want, you can just copy this, and basically you can just forget about it. You just need to know that you do need these things. But I'm just going to tell you a little bit about them. Include just means you're including a repository that the compiler needs to know what your code means. You'll see what that means later, but IOStream is the most popular one. You definitely need this one. IOmanip is not necessary at this point, but we're just going to keep it just so once it is necessary, we have it in there. And manip is just like manipulation, so these are used to manipulate different kinds of things. Using namespace std, for our purposes, I think this is very useful because we're going to be using a lot of stuff that use std, and basically you're going to see that if we didn't have this line, a lot of lines that we have to write in code, we would have to include this std in the code, but it's very like tedious to keep writing it, and if we use this, then we don't have to keep writing it every single time. And that's those 3 lines. And then we have int main with these parentheses. And this is basically where you're going to be starting your code. Your code is going to be in between the main function. And the main function is signified by these curly braces. So all your code is going to be in between these curly braces. And the main function just means this is the main function. This is where everything starts. And this one is just something that you need, pause wrong, something that you need so that when we do start running the code, the screen that comes up doesn't go away instantly. That just pauses the screen so we can see what's going on. And yeah, so this is where you start writing code, and Visual Studio does a very good job in tabbing for you. So like if I click enter right now, it tabs it, so I don't have to tab myself, which is really nice. But yeah, this is where all the code goes, and so I'm just going to start teaching you the basics of C++. So the first thing we need to do is what every programmer for some reason does when they start a new language, every book does, and that's writing hello world. And how this works is C++, when you run it, it runs into a different window, and we can open up that window and run the program by clicking Control F5. That'll build the code and then come up in this separate window. And this is where all our code is going to show up. And see, I have no code running, and so it just says press any key to continue, and then it ends. So now if we put something in here, like code, it'll show up in a separate window. So now our job right now is to have hello world show up in this window. So we're going to write to the console, and this thing right here is called the console. So if we're going to need to write to it, we're going to need some code. And the code to write out to the console, so write out to the console is kind of meaningful because the code that we use is called cout or console out, the way I think of it. So if we have cout, and then we're going to have to tell it what we want to say to go out to the console. And to signify that this is going to be what we're going to put out to the console, we're going to have 2 of these greater than signs. So this is going to tell the program that the next things that we have are going to be outputted to the console. Alright, so the next things that we need is after we do that, the next few words is going to be hello world, but we don't want hello world to be interpreted as code. We just want it to be outputted to the console. So we're going to put it in quotations. So once anything that you put in quotations, it's not used as code, it's just outputted or inputted, as we'll see later. So here we're going to put hello world with an exclamation mark. And then C++, after every line of code, you need to end it with a semicolon. So as you see here, even the system pause, we have a semicolon. Even after using namespaces C, we have a semicolon. For includes, we don't need them. But anything in the main function, you have to end with a semicolon. So now that we have cout or console out, these greater than signs that signify, okay, whatever I need to be output it is going to be after this. And so this is kind of the input, the in, and then you have whatever you need, and then semicolon is the out. So now if we click Control F5, it's going to build, and then it's going to show hello world, the exclamation point, and then the press any key to continue that was there before. So now it looks kind of weird because, you know, hello world and press any key is on the same line. But what we can do is if we get rid of the semicolon and we're going to say after hello world, we're going to have two more greater than signs, and then we're going to put end L, which means end line. And the reason you need these greater than signs again is because this is not interpreted as code, but we need this to be interpreted as code. So that's why they need to be separated. So now we have a semicolon at the end of that. Instead of here, you just need it at the end of the line. If we do that, we have hello world, and then it ends the line. In a new line, it says press any key to continue. Okay. The next thing is when we want to get input from the console, or when the user, the person who uses our code, needs to input something. Like, let's say we want to ask, what is your age? And they have to be able to input it. Well, the way we have it right now, they have no way of inputting. So we have to do a couple of things. So here, instead of saying hello world, now we're past that. We're going to say, how old are you? Question. So here, as you can see, you can put anything in here and it'll just write out to the console no matter what you put. And even, you know, if I put C out here, it won't be interpreted as code because it's in these quotations. And you can see that they are a different color. That's how you can tell. So now we have, you know, see out, how old are you? So it says how old are you, but, you know, if I do anything, if I put in 2, nothing happens, it ends the program. Now we're going to have to get an input from the user. So how can we do that? Well, if C out is console out, we're going to need C in for console in. And this is used to get input from the user. And if you saw that C out uses greater than signs, C in will use less than signs or greater than. It really depends on how you look at it. But yeah, you use the opposite way. So when you say C in, you're asking for input, but we need to store this input somewhere. We can't just have it anywhere, and the compiler doesn't know where to store it unless you tell it. So let's say we want to put it in a variable. That variable we can name as age, and we're going to end it with a semicolon. However, there, as you can see, there is a red underline under age, and that's because if you look at it, identifier age is undefined. We never defined what age is, and to do that, we know that age is going to be a number. Yes, how old are you? That's going to be, you know, whether you're, you know, 5 or 10 or 20, whatever you are, it's going to be a number. So how do we initialize a number? How do we define a number? Well, a number is also considered an integer, or, you know, a whole number is considered an integer, and no one really says, you know, I'm 20.2 years old, so it's going to be a whole number. So to define age as an integer, it's int, and as you can see, when I write int, it shows up as blue, and then you do int age, and then semicolon, because that's the end of the line. What you've done is you've created an integer that's named age. So now we can use age wherever we want. So now we have an integer age. Right now it has no value in it. And then we ask how old are you? And then we input that number that the user inputs themselves. So they say, oh, I'm whatever, 50 years old. They write 50, and then we store in age. So if we click Control F5, they say, how old are you? And then instead of saying, please press any key to continue, it just has nothing and has, this cursor right here. So we can write any number. Say we're 25 years old. And then we click enter when we're done. This number can be as big as you really want it to be, but the person isn't that old. They're only 25 years old, so we just click enter. And then the program ends. Now, the program ends because we didn't really do anything with this age, but just to show you that the age is stored, we can do that. So how we're going to do that is we're going to do cout and those same greater than signs. And then we're just going to say in parentheses, so this is not going to be code. And then you can say you entered, and then we'll do a colon. And then I can't just put age here because, as you remember, anything in these parentheses are not used as code. So if I just did this, semicolon at the end, and I did this and I said 25, you entered, and then it'll just say age. It won't say 25 or whatever you entered, right? But we can go around this because instead of saying age, if we do, I don't know if you guys can figure this out, but if you do another two greater than signs, and then you write age, it won't actually write age, it'll write the value that is stored in age, because this is now considered code. So now, put a semicolon, and then if we run this, how old are you? Say 30 now, 30, enter, and you entered 30, and then the program ends. Now, as you can see, if we don't want that on the same line, you just put another two greater than signs, and then you write end line, end L, and then a semicolon. Run the program. How old are you? 20. You entered 20, and then it just looks nicer with the end lines. And press any key to continue, and you're done. So like I said, these things like C in, cout, the reason the code, the compiler knows what these are is because you have this include IOStream. And IOStream has the definitions of cout, cin, and int, things like that. And so they know what to do with them. And just so you can see what using std means, for every cout and cin, if we didn't have this line right here, see if I copy it and take it out, all these couts and cins and end lines, they go red. Because I think, I'm not really sure, but I think you need std, that's what you need, yeah. So you would have to have std : thinking you want here too. Not really sure yet, I think so. So if you have that, the code should run. So if you do 20, the code runs the same exact way, but you see how many times we've had to write these std : colons. I wrote it 5 times for only 3 lines of code. And so to mitigate that, we just get rid of every single one. Instead of having to write every time, because coders are very lazy, we created using names stays std. And now, it knows that every time there is a cout and cin and an endl to just put in std in front of it so that we don't have to. So yeah, that's the basics of coding in C++. What we've learned is cout and cin. Cout to output to the console, cin to input from the console, and an integer as a variable. Hope you guys liked it. Try some stuff out for yourself, write anything you want, and I'll see you in the next one.